everybody, and welcome to day 184 of Bible 365. So if you have been with me before, you know I am reading through the Bible in 365 days, 1 year. I am using the chronological Bible reading plan from oneyearbibleonline.com. You would download this free reading plan, and then you would print it up if you wanted to, and then you would read along using your own Bible. So that's on the table for you guys. My goal is that I want you to read first, and then I would love if you come and watch the videos, maybe to help you understand it a little better, maybe just to see if you're on the right track, although I'm not always on the right track, maybe to just get a greater understanding, right? Or maybe just to get a different opinion, whatever it might be. So I'm glad that you're here. I'm thrilled that you are joining me if you are here. And I am super excited, most of all, that you want to know more about God and be in a deeper relationship with Him. So today we're on day, again, 184. It is July 2nd. Sorry, I had to scoot a little bit. It's July 2nd, and our reading is Proverbs 25 through 29. So we have read most of the Proverbs already, and the Proverbs were written originally by King Solomon. So King Solomon lived, I want to say, in the neighborhood of 150 years before we are right now, 160, 175, something like that, years before we are right now in history in the nation of Israel. King Hezekiah is on the throne, and he's on the throne of Judah, which is the southern kingdom, and the nation of Assyria has taken over Israel. They kind of like destroyed is probably too big of a word, but they punished the nation of Israel, and they took a lot of them with them, but they left some up in Israel. And then others came and lived in the nation of Israel and sort of took over and are living in that land, sort of taken over that area. Okay, so King Hezekiah is a good king. If you have been here before today, then you might remember that King Hezekiah was the one who's trying to bring everybody back to the Lord. His dad did evil in the sight of the Lord, and so he wants to bring everything back. He has reset up the temple that they used as like a shrine for male prostitutes, that the walls came crumbling down in them, and so they needed to build these walls back up again. And so he needed to essentially clean everything out and consecrate it. And then he consecrated his people. So he consecrated the Levites, brought them back in, made them priests again, so they were no longer doing anything else. The nation is now supporting them in the priesthood as the sort of the in-between between the people of Judah and the Lord. And so this is I believe that this is the follow-up to that, right? So what he wants is he wants his people to follow the Lord. They have lost their way, which, guys, it's so understandable. Like, I lose my way sometimes, and I remember we're years after, but I remember the time of COVID, right? Like, so for those of you, everyone has lived through it, right? And depending on what year this is, depends how long ago you lived through it or not, but everyone lived through COVID, and during that time, everything shut down. The world shut down. And so where we were, churches shut down. And I remember just feeling like I was already broken. You know, it wasn't well for me. I didn't do well sitting at home. I wasn't that kind of person. I didn't do well working from home. I don't work well from home. I wasn't able to go to the gym, which is where I teach classes. And so it just was already bad for me. And then I couldn't go to church. So like the family in which I went to be filled up, right, in God's word, I wasn't able to do that. And so each week we would sit in front of a TV and we would watch church online. And so of course you didn't talk to people, you didn't meet, you didn't, have conversations with people that you know, and maybe you could text them while you were there, or you could call them on the phone. You certainly weren't getting together. And then we started out with 2 weeks of that, and then it was 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 months, a year, right? The time just got longer and longer and longer. And the longer it got, the further away many of us found ourselves from the Lord, because we weren't being encouraged by the Lord, right? We weren't meeting and sharing with like-minded people, right? We weren't getting any prophetic word from the Lord. Like, we were doing a little bit online, and I was definitely listening to a lot of things, but it was really hard. And so all that being said, that's in where I was following the Lord, right? Where I was actively going to church. And even then I was starting to struggle and have problems, and started, you start falling back into your own ways, your old ways. Like, for me, starting to get a little more angry and frustrated because I was already mad that we were stuck inside. And so, right. So all of these like, bad things started coming back, like started filling my heart, because my heart wasn't fully filled with the Lord. This is now generations of people who really have not been following the Lord. So we probably look at the nation of Israel and we think to ourselves, not now, but then we think to ourselves as you're reading, like, well, but they always had their traditions and they always went to the temple but they didn't. They didn't. They did exactly what we do. There would be a time where they would come back and they would do all these things and then they would fall away, and then there would be a time where they'd come back. And so what Hezekiah was doing is Hezekiah was making this huge big, like he was screaming it from the rafters. He wasn't shy about it. He wasn't doing secret service and coming in really quietly and doing it. He was making it the whole entire nation. And so what we see is it looks as if he's pulled out some Proverbs of Solomon's and he's sharing these with the people. And again, this is my vision and my view, right, of what Hezekiah is doing. He's going, my people have forgotten. The Lord's people are no longer following the Lord. And so now let's sort of bring all these things out, share with them what they need to know to be followers of the Lord. And so these Proverbs aren't just nice sayings. It's not like the things you get out of a Chinese cookie, and you know, it tells your fortune or whatever, or it says, you know, play these lottery numbers. That's not the point and purpose of these Proverbs. It's not even to be witty. It's to live a life that the Lord looks highly on, right? The Lord highly regards, because you're following the Lord. And so you want to live in such a way. So even now, as I think about it, I think to myself, we always steer people towards the 10 Commandments, and I can't tell you how many times people get confused. Well, you're steering me to the 10 Commandments. Does that mean I can't wear 2 different kinds of linen? Does that mean I can't eat shrimp anymore? And of course I would say no, but there's whole other reasons for that. So the reality is these Proverbs are really timeless. There's really nothing in these Proverbs that don't honor the Lord, right? It's about being wise. It's about being forgiven. And I just realized that there's work being done next door. Hopefully it's not too distracting. Obviously it was just distracting to me. So I want to start in the beginning. And this is, so again, we're on July 2nd. Of course, I lost where I needed to be, because I always do. Okay, July 2nd, and it says, Hezekiah's men compiles these, right? And so it says in verse 2, we're just going to start out in verse 2. It is the glory of God to conceal a matter, to search out a matter is the glory of kings. So God hides, kings conceal. So these first 5 or 6 chapters are all about the nature of kings and nobles and what they are supposed to be doing, right? How they are supposed to be following the Lord. And this is all, I want to say good advice, wise advice in order to be a good king, which is what Hezekiah wants to be. So he says, as the heavens are high and the earth is deep, so the hearts of kings are unsearchable. Remove the dross from the silver, and a silversmith can produce a vessel. Remove wicked officials from the king's presence, and his throne will be established through righteousness. So understanding that when there's these people in your kingdom who are not following the Lord, it's going to affect the entire kingdom. Now this next section, because I feel like he's broken these things up into sections. These next section, like sort of 7 until, I don't know, 15, I'm gonna say, is an area where it's kind of about being careful. So I just want to say, being careful in judgments. And so we make all these judgments, and he's talking about going to court with your neighbor and doing all these things and being aware of what these judgments would do, right? Like, so you don't want to go to court and then have them turn everything back on you. It says, like apples of gold in settings of silver is a ruling rightly given. This is one I had to look up in a couple of different versions because it didn't really make sense to me, because I thought gold meant gold. I don't think it does. It may, but I don't think it does. I actually think it means, like, you know, those golden apples. So you have a silver bowl and then you have those golden apples in that silver bowl. So it's good. It's like, right, you look at it and you're like, oh, that looks so delicious. I want to come and eat that. Look at that clean bowl with those delicious apples in it. And you want to come eat it. And so mine says is a ruling rightly given. Other ones say are words fitly spoken. So this is when you're speaking the truth or being wise or sharing right wisdom with other people or making a judgment with other people, because a lot of this has to do with judgments. And so this is a really good thing. So being upright and honest in your judgments, right? We always say, like, judging is wrong. And that's not necessarily what it means. Judging isn't wrong. Judging is important. We need to recognize right from wrong. but judging wrongly and unjustly is a terrible thing, right? So we're not the ones to say, oh, I can't believe that you're doing this, that, or the other, right? We're meant to lift people up to the Lord and judge righteously as much as possible. Then I'm going to say this next section. So that's about like judging and judging other people. This next section, it says, through patience, a ruler can be persuaded, and a gentle tongue can break a bone. And so to be patient and to be kind, moving on into some of that section, it's about, again, these people being patient and kind with each other. If your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. So how are you living among your other people in your land, right? Are you keeping for yourself, or are you generously giving to others? Another tough one. Better to live on the corner of a roof than share a house with a quarrelsome wife. Yikes. Good to know, I guess. You don't want to have a wife that likes to fight. Going down to the next chapter in verse 26:1, he says, like snow in summer or rain in a harvest, honor is not fitting for a fool. We need to determine who is a fool, and he starts going on about what it is, what it looks like for a fool, like they're useless, they're pointless, like a thorn bush in a drunkard's hand is a proverb in the mouth of the fool, so he's going to use it as a weapon, right? So it's terrible. You don't want to be foolish. And I like verse 4 and 5. So it says, do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself will be just like him. And then 5, it says, answer a fool according to his folly, or he will be wise in his own eyes. So I love this because obviously it's giving you, information. Well, do I answer a fool or don't I answer a fool? And this is the beauty of Proverbs, because you can't just make yourself a checklist. You have to understand and be wise. You got to bring information in. You got to process it according to the Lord, and then you can get information out, right? So sometimes you're going to answer a fool according to their folly, because to not do so, they're going to be wise in their own eyes and they need to learn. Another time you don't want to answer a fool because it's going to make you like them. You're going to sound like a fool. So don't answer. So if there's a place in which you're going to sound foolish, maybe when you're just arguing back and forth with somebody continuously over and over again, and it's on something foolish, stop wasting your time. Stop worrying about those things, because you're answering them according to their folly, right? It's not just random folly. You're answering them according to them, right? If you're trying to encourage and share the word with them, right, or share wisdom with them, then it is different. Then you answer them and then you move on, right? And again, I'm trying not to give you a checklist or to do or to don'ts, but these are some of the things in which we need to use wisdom, which is what this is for. The next section talks about being lazy, that we're not supposed to be lazy. We're supposed to be going out. We're supposed to be working. So when all of this comes, and by the way, this is for you and you specifically. This is not necessarily for you to go point at somebody else, especially someone who doesn't follow the Lord, by the way, and be like, can you believe how lazy that person is? It's not for them. It's for you. Are you diligent in your work? That's it. Are you diligent in your work? Are you somebody who, when you have an opportunity to work, you do, and you are diligent in your work? Not someone that makes work their entire life, because there's those people too, or not somebody who says, I need more money. That's not about that either. It's about not being a sluggard. It's about not being something it would cause you to lie and to cheat and to steal, and somebody that would be a drain on somebody else, right? This is just about working diligently. The next section is about being quarrelsome, about starting fights with people. Are you a gossip? Do you antagonize, right? Like, this one I think is funny. It starts in 18. Like a maniac shooting flaming arrows of death. Like a maniac shooting flaming arrows of death is one who deceives their neighbor and says, I was only joking. So like, I feel like that puts that under the guise of mean pranks, right? And you go, that's ridiculous. Don't be so harsh. But these things are important, right? That you're trying to live in a community with other people and love and care on them. And if you're deliberately trying to hurt them and thinking it's funny, like thinking that it's amusing, that's not something that's careful or kind or loving or right giving, which is all the things that we're supposed to be. So I'm not saying you can't laugh. That's obviously extremely important, but be careful at whose expense it is. Then we go down to this next section starting in 23. It says, like a coating of silver dross on earthenware are fervent lips with an evil heart. So a coating of silver dross on earthenware is like earthenware is probably the cheapest of your what you would eat out of, right? So it's like made out of clay. It's not made out of silver or gold, right? It's not one of the most important things. But then you cover it with silver, but it's still kind of worthless because you're covering it even with worthless silver. So it's still essentially a worthless piece. It's not great. And that is like fervent, which means like very passionate, excitedly passionate. So somebody who is fervent with an evil heart. I consider myself fervent. I actually read the definition and I was like, oh, because it says passionate and intense. And I'm definitely going to say that I have that about me, but it's about doing it with an evil heart. So being wise to decipher if your passion is good or evil, right? Are you spreading wisdom or are you spreading folly and being foolish? And then it continues to talk on about liars and people who flatter, but they're lying in their heart. Like, are you faking with people? Are you just being a phony? Then they talk about show-offs, about people boasting. Let other people praise you. You don't need to praise yourself. Let other people praise you, right? Do good and not evil. So there's a lot here about doing good, what it looks like to do good. So I obviously, if you haven't read these, I recommend to read these because I'm not reading as many personal ones. One of the most famous ones is verse 17, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And this is very literal, iron sharpens iron, right? So that's a literal expression. And there's not a lot of other things that necessarily sharpen iron, right? So iron sharpens iron. And this is what we're supposed to be doing for each other. And by sharpening, we are teaching them wisdom, right? We're bringing them back to the Lord. We're talking about things of the Lord. We're encouraging, we're prophesying, we're doing all of these things for each other. And that's how we encourage each other. So like when we get together, I gotta stop saying so. I say so many times. I don't know how you guys don't want to choke me. When we get together as a family of people who love the Lord, we talk about our kids. We talk about maybe if it's all women, maybe we talk about our spouses. Maybe we talk about, we talk about school. There's so many things that we talk about. But what I find is when we sit down and we want to start talking about the Lord, everyone starts to clam up. And we should be sharpening each other. That should be our goal. When I sit in a group of women and men, I don't really want them telling me how amazing I am. What I would like is for us to learn more about the Lord, maybe letting me know if I'm going off topic or off task and how to bring myself back, right? Maybe recognizing that the ways that I'm parenting might need some more godly wisdom, right? There are so many ways in which we can encourage each other. Maybe just sitting and praying together, right? This is what we as a body of believers should be spending time on. So if we're together for, let's say, an hour and a half, 2 hours, let's say 2 hours, let's say we're together for 2 hours. It shouldn't be an hour of idle chit chat, talking about politics, talking about sports, talking about what we did last night, talking about what our kids are doing in school, and then a half an hour of Bible study, and then 2 minutes in closing prayer, right? We should be, when we talk about our sports or where we were or what we did the night before, where was God in that? Right? Where did you see God? Where did you need God? Right? Was there a place where you fell short the night before and you need prayer for that? These are the things as small groups that I would love to see. And I feel like this is how we encourage each other. And in some ways we're afraid, because iron does sharpen. This is the point. Iron sharpens iron, and it's in a painful way. It's not always like, oh, I'm just going to rub it really nice. And it's not Play-Doh, right? So it's not going to go and move really easily. It's a hard substance that needs to sort of be beat into submission. And that's what we are to each other. And what comes from that, right, is people who follow the Lord closer. not people who walk away from the Lord. Next, we're moving into, so that's our iron sharpens iron, which I love. And then another one I want to point out is verse 19. As water reflects the face, one's life reflects their heart. If this isn't one of the most brilliant, and I've said on a million occasions to you guys, there's not a moment that goes by that someone doesn't know that I go to the gym. Not a moment. No one looks at it, or if I say it, they go, I knew you went to the gym, right? If someone goes, oh, what do you do with your time? Oh, I like to work out. I knew you worked out. I could tell you, because I'm hyper, I'm vibrant. I have this kind of personality all the time. If I say, oh, I go to church on Sunday, would they say, really? Or would they say, I knew you went to church on Sunday. I knew you were the person who went to church on Sunday. Am I living in that? Is my heart and is everything reflecting, like a mirror, is everything reflecting that I love the Lord and that I follow the Lord? This next thing I want to say is I feel in some ways both literal and figurative. Verse 23, it goes, be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds, for riches do not endure forever, and a crown is not secure for all generations. When the hay is removed and new growth appears, and the grass from the hills is gathered in, the lambs will provide you with clothing, and the goats will with the price of a field. You'll have plenty of goat's milk to feed your family and to nourish your female servants. I feel that this is both literal and figurative. So literal in the fact that they had watched they've watched Israel be taken over by Assyria. And so there's probably some literal things going on in their hearts, some fears that they recognized that they fell away from the Lord and that they were taken away because of that, right? There was punishment because of that. The prophets had all let them know, and they were telling Judah, it's coming for you next, right? Turn yourselves to the Lord, it's coming for you next. And I think that in this way, Hezekiah is bringing out this proverb in order to prepare them that they're not always going to have financial blessings. There's a great possibility that that will be taken away. But what they do have is what they nurture in their homes, right? So they do have goats that they could sell. They do have sheep that they can shear so they can make themselves clothes. So they will have things as long as they make their home stable. Now, if we're being figurative, of course, I'm going to say things out in the outside world won't always be with us. We won't always have adoration. We won't always have hundreds of friends. We won't always have work to go to. There are other things, but we will, if we develop in our homes and our families good things, those things we will have for long term. So I think that for me, it hits both of those pictures. Next one that I like is 28:2. When a country is rebellious, it has many rulers. This is my idea of God in order again. When a country is rebellious, it has many rulers. So when a country sort of is like, I don't want anyone to tell me what to do, and I don't need anyone, and looking at this kind of like, I've got freedoms, and I've got, how dare you tell me I'm not allowed to? Don't take away my this and don't take away my that. That gives many rulers, because now everyone is overstepping their bounds over what they are. I am just a citizen. I have the power to vote. I have the power even to protest, but I'm just a citizen. And my duty is to serve the government that is over top of me, whether I like it or not. Now, I'm not saying to sin. I'm just saying in ways that are not sinful, our duty is to serve the government as it is. And then in here, but then it says, but a ruler with discernment and knowledge maintains order. So you have chaos without discernment and knowledge. But with discernment and knowledge, there's order, right? And then there are people who have desires to serve under that ruler because of their discernment and knowledge. Not everybody, because there's always going to be rebellious people, but there's a better chance with knowledge that there could be a good ruling kingdom and then people underneath who enjoy following that king. All right, next section I'm going to say is instruction and knowledge of God. So it says, discerning son heeds instruction. If anyone turns a deaf ear to my instruction, their prayers are detestable. One who is poor and discerning sees how deluded they are. And and it has other, blessed is the one who trembles before God. So learning knowledge and discernment is important to the Lord. And it's important to get that knowledge and discernment from the Lord. And then the next section is about walking blameless and faithful in the Lord. And then we move on to verses 24 through 28 is about being greedy. All the bad things the greedy do. It's so easy to be greedy. I know I'm just like shaking my head because I'm thinking to myself, it's so easy for us to be greedy. It's in our nature. We want, I look at what someone else has. I always tell you guys this, but I want vacations. I want vacations all the time. I love vacation. I don't have to cook on vacation. There are things that I have freedom from when I'm on vacation. And so I just love it. I also love seeing other places and other areas. So I love being on vacation, and it's something I crave, and I need to not be greedy about that, because it's not always what's the best for me, and that's not all. It's definitely not what's the most important for me. And so if the Lord deems that I get that, then phenomenal. And if the Lord deems that I don't get that, I can't be greedy for it, because that will pervert so many of the ways in which I behave. All right, so then coming toward the end, I want to get just into this last section in chapter 29. It says I'm going to say in verses 14 through 23, for me, it is all about keeping order. If a king judges the poor with fairness, his throne will be established forever. So the king needs to be fair, and then everybody underneath that king, just like what I was talking about, recognizing that I'm just a citizen, everything underneath that king needs to know its place. We all have a place. Your place is not worse than anyone else's place. So when you deem yourself less than because of your place, right? We have opportunities to get out of our place and to go into other places, but we can't conspire against that place. We can't go, well, I don't want to be this place anymore. You are, right? So in this time and in this nation, there were servants, there were poor, there were rich, there were the people that were in charge, there were the Levites, right? And you kind of were what you were. There were the people who went to war, rulers, dictators, like you were what you were. And it's a little different now. We're able to get out of our our levels, right? Our systems and our levels. But be the best whatever it is that you are. Don't hate the hierarchy, right? So be patient and have self-control and be the best whatever it is that you have been given, because it is a blessing that you have been given that. And so be the best at it. I'm not going to fight that I'm a woman. I'm going to accept that I'm a woman and take all of the spoils of being a woman, right? And allow my place to be perfected as it is, and find joy in exactly what I am, because I am what I am. So I just enjoy, God made me exactly like I am. And so I need to prosper in that and just seek the Lord in all of those things, right? And knowing who I am. I'm ending on that note today because I don't really necessarily need to go any further. We're just about the end of that chapter. So if this has been a blessing to you, if you've enjoyed it, even the knocking next door, the work that's getting done next door, I want you to like it. I want you to share it and subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell so you get notifications every day. Keep reading, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.